Yeah! How's it going? Here making my delivery. I might have to put my glasses back on just to read. I know, it's so exciting, right, guys? For some reason, somebody wanted me to go live. I don't think I have really anything to say. Kevin and Ollie, how's orientation? I'm trying to get a couple more loads before I go back home. There's a really good pan load that I do that goes from here to Arkansas, but it doesn't pick up till Friday. So if I can find something that fills in the gap, I might book it. That's cool, Kevin. I hope you get a good color. I know that Prime takes pride in that. Allowing you to pick your color. What's up, Zach? Thomas Wilson. Let's do some shout outs here, shall we? We got Gary, who says he's first. Big John, Daniel Adami, Nittany Lion, Kevin and Ollie, it's me, Gary, Spooby, David Riverman, Rican Trucker, Thomas Wilson, Zach Robinson. Well, if you don't leave out till Monday, Kevin, then we'll definitely hang out. Down here in Texas, going to be a short pants weather tomorrow. I was in Texas a couple of days ago. Am I using beard oil or balm? I use beard oil at home, but not so much on the road. I forgot it. You're heading to Fulton? Well, I'm here. That's where I'm at. Little Bike Coach without Truck Review Channel. Pale Rider. I did go live, Pale Rider, just for you. I didn't know what to title it, so I used your name. Isn't that what YouTubers do? We use each other's names to kind of get views. I am waiting on the lumper to call me. Tell me if I need to pay anything or not. Usually the carrier, that's the broker, I usually don't have to pay anything here, but we shall see. We shall see. Be there at 1 a.m. Deliver potatoes. Yeah, there is a chip place around here, isn't there? I used to haul potato chips out of here from Landstar, going to the prison system in Huntsville, Texas. How's the dry man in my area? Missouri is kind of so-so. Just depends on where you're going. And somebody on Facebook asked me, that they have trouble, nailing rates. And the tools that I use are, a lot of people look for the hot states. The problem with hot states is that let's say like California is a hot state, right? So everybody goes to California. So now it changes the capacity in that state. So now it becomes a softer market. And then it's not hot anymore. So like California at one point had 1,000 loads going in and 3,000 coming out. And that won't last forever. It depends on the time of year. A lot of stuff is moved regionally. Like, If you go to Houston, a lot of loads, large percent of loads go east, like to Georgia, Louisiana. If you take a load out to, say, Arizona, a lot of loads go north and south in California, Washington, Oregon. If you take a load to, say, Minnesota, Wisconsin, a lot of those tend to go south. And then loads out of Michigan, Ohio tend to go northeast. You know, it's everything's regional. Every now and then you find a coast-to-coast kind of long-haul thing. I didn't really answer your question, though. I look for states that are kind of equal amount going in and equal amount going out. Like Missouri is one of those. I think last time I looked, Missouri had 430 going in and about 420 coming out.
Say a command.
Shut up! Exit. And, I believe in looking at a dead area and master it. Like, I go in and out of Dallas a lot because there's a lot of freight that comes out of Dallas goes back to Springfield. So it's a lot easier to go out and back, you know. I tend to stay away from toll roads, especially in Pennsylvania where I'm heavy. You know, I have a unique approach to what I do. There's a load going to Republic, Missouri from Stewart for less than $1 a mile. Here's something else, guys. Those of you new to the spot market, there's a lot of brokers that put posted rates. And here's why they do that. If the average is, say, $2 a mile for that lane, and they put it at $1 a mile, number one, it could be a partial. I've seen partials go for $1 a mile. Number two, it could be that they want to just let you know right off the bat that if you come in with a high number, they're not even going to talk to you. And so it saves them a lot of phone calls. But all prices are negotiable. Like even Uber, you see a load on Uber that you want, but you don't think it's paying quite a bit, you can call Uber and negotiate a rate. Uber is just another broker. All the click and go apps have negotiation abilities. And so just because it's a posted rate doesn't mean that's what you have to haul it for. And a lot of people I see on Facebook, they post these like, oh, this is $1 a mile, but it's reality, it's a partial load. In other words, it might be 4 pallets. And, you know, they expect you know, some guys are so good at this that they'll book LTL. You know, if your freight doesn't have to have the trailer exclusively, then, you know, you can make some money. So if you got 3 partials that all pay $1 a mile, well, now you're making $3 a mile with 3 stops. And, you know, but it takes a little bit of coordination and knowing your market to do that. TJ, what's up? I bet you it's snowing in North Utah. Isn't that what it does? Isn't that like ski resort area? But Missouri is, I do good going in and out of Missouri. Rates are better in Illinois, so, you know, perfect world, I would bounce between Missouri and Illinois. That's where I've made my best rates. Loads going from Missouri to Florida usually pay really good. Loads going from Missouri to Arizona don't. And I know that the 1, 2, 3 load board averages are way lower than what the DAT board shows. Called on a load out of Denver, full load under $1 a mile. Right. See, I don't know. I don't go into Denver. There's no reason for me to go to Denver, especially this time of year. Now, Landstar, I've been to Denver 3 times. And twice I had to take beer loads that were super cheap. But a lot of times agents would call me and they would have trouble getting some of those beer loads covered. Like they would show like picks up tomorrow or picks up at 12 o'clock tomorrow, and I'd be ready to move, that day. And they call, well, this one's ready now, and it's drop and hook, where some are live loads. And so, and I knew that the agent was a little bit more desperate to move that beer load than the others, so I usually got a better rate for those. One time I got lucky and got empty Coke cans. And after I made my delivery, I knew why I made a good rate with those, is because it went to an even deader area than Denver. And it was like somewhere in the middle of New Mexico. So the trick is find the brokers in some of the dead areas that have freight that you can have a relationship with that will get you a decent rate. And then have them in your pocket, so when you negotiate a high rate going to a dead area, you can use them to get out. I have small prices. Beer loads generally suck. It depends on the brand. Anheuser-Busch tends to pay better than Miller. Don't know why. Probably because Anheuser-Busch sells way more than Miller. So it might be a volume, so they're needing to move that stuff a lot more, so they have to pay a little bit more. A lot of specialty beers pay really good. I once did a LTL type thing going to these small liquor stores, and that load paid really good. I look like I'm in ZZ Top in this light. Maybe I am. But so I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I'm learning the system on the freight market slowly. LOL. That's good, Lisa. What kind of broker relationship do I need? A motel room? Well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, LVC. I mean, there are a few people that went from the spot market to dedicated freight, right? Did you pick up an AB in Loveland? No, I picked up, I usually picked up Miller out of, not Loveland, but south of Denver, I think, somewhere around there. It's been like 3 years since I've been there. The bottom line is you can't be a butthead to these brokers. You can't view them as the enemy. You got to be cautious. You got to be on their game. You got to be on their A game to make sure that they're not, giving you wrong information or, lying. But for the most part, you're working a business relationship, and if you go in thinking that you're at war, it's gonna create a bad vibe, and that's just it's kind of hard to succeed in that kind of environment. And here's the other thing: if you feel that brokers hurt your business, they keep you from doing what you want to do, and that you hate dealing with the hassle of brokers, then you have to adjust your business to where you don't need them or you don't use them. In other words, find the dedicated accounts. Go out there and make the calls. where you don't even need the brokers. You know, there's a lot of carriers that only use brokers for backhauls on certain lanes. I actually really enjoy my company holding my hand right now. Lee said there's nothing wrong with where you're working. Kevin and Ollie just started where you're at. 954 is, I believe, my total fixed costs over here. That's not including the trailer payment. It wasn't on my settlement for last week. At the rates they are offering, is it war? It is war. Hello. Fumooch, yes and no. I mean, I did a load out of Oklahoma for $3.69 a mile. You know, loaded miles. You know, but Uber also had stuff for $1.25. I mean, I was talking with someone today. Okay. It's here. Oh, I forgot, Daniel. I forgot. I was talking to a friend today who's new at the spot market, right? And he goes, I go, hey, so what'd you get? You know, he's like, I got $1.98 a mile, or $1.90. I don't remember. I'm not going to say who it is, okay? I don't want that out there. And he goes, yeah, man, it pays like crap, but I'm going to North Carolina, whatever, you know. And I asked him, I said, well, why do you think $1.98 is bad? And he didn't really have an answer. I mean, what are you basing what is good and what is bad? Are you basing the fact that, you know, you got people on YouTube and Facebook bragging that they're getting $3 a mile on miles? Are you basing it off of that? Or are you basing it that, are your costs that high? If they're that high, you've got other issues going on. Is there, you know, could have you gotten more? Maybe, but that it takes time to work up to that. You know, Big Rig CEO did a really good video about Moneyball, and that applies to the spot market, not just Snyder. You know, if you hit singles consistently, you're gonna score. You know, and every now and then you get that home run. Not every load's going to be $3 a mile, because if you're waiting for that, then you're going to be sitting a whole lot. So you go by the averages. You try to get above average, and then as long as you're not below, if you're in Miami and you don't want to move for $1 a mile, you're going to have to deadhead out, or you're going to be sitting a long time. A lot of the money right now is in power only, doing driver work, like loading out of the trailers yourself, you know, off the roller bars, multi-stops. You know, right now, to get the best rates, you're having to do either extra stops or go to dead areas, or you know, hand unload, you know, that kind of thing. And you got to do the stuff that people aren't willing to do, plain and simple, if you want to get above average rates. And you have to know your costs. You have to know, you know, you have to know the difference between what you want and what you need. I try to be somewhere in the middle. Or have a team, right? You applied for a $25 an hour job pulling containers to Chicago day cab. Well, cool. If that will make you happy, I hope you get it. So I look for states with consistency, like, you know, Missouri's kind of a weird market. You know, I got people calling me all the time, dude, I thought Joplin was hot. Well, one week it is, one week it isn't. Depends on the time of year, depends on the product. If you live near a paper mill, you can work all the time, but you struggle with rates, around paper mill areas. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you're in your first 6 months out here, you're still learning. I'm still learning. I make mistakes. Almost made a big mistake today, but you learn through trial and error. I mean, that's what I did. I found out the hard way. Why Arizona is not the place to be for a dry van. And I take some of the lower markets, like the Dallas market, and I find my little niche. I find the loads that generally come back to the areas that I want to go to. And I talk to owner-operators that have their own authority out of Dallas and what they do and what their strategies are. If your strategy is to do well out of Florida, talk to the owner-operators that live in Florida. What do they do? Network. Talk with people. Don't be an a-hole where no one wants to talk to you. But I know when I was at Snyder, if I saw a lot of good rates going in one area, all of a sudden I would watch the weather, and sure enough, it was snowing up there. So, the weather can play a part. FEMA loads can play a part. A lot of stuff is regional. Because they live and survive there. So they've created accounts, so they're not. See, here's the thing, guys. If you don't want to deal with the spike and lows of the spot market, what do? You find dedicated accounts. Well, shippers do the same thing. If shippers don't want to, pay out the tail 1 month and then barely pay another month where they have trouble moving their freight, it's easier for them to look at a carrier that can haul their freight for a certain amount, so it saves them money and it makes it consistent, and that carrier is a contract to take care of them. So they do the same thing. So it's all about supply and demand and what kind of leverage do you have. Right now, like right now we have the leverage because it's Christmas time. Everybody's getting the last minute Christmas stuff. And the freight that I'm seeing is going to box stores, like where I'm at now. And there's a lot of loads coming out of Enos, Texas, going to all the Targets within a 1,000-mile radius. And so obviously the shipper in Enos, Texas is doing a massive shipment right now to that particular store. And and next month it'll be everything going to, for Walmart or Dollar General. Everything's in cycles, and you just have to figure out the cycle. All I have access to is 1, 2, 3 low board, since I don't have my authority, and there's plenty of mid to upper $2 per mile loads, but it seems a lot of drivers don't want to chase the money. I feel like brokers stick it to the shippers and barely feed us, Zach says. Talk about that for a second. John Galt. Sometimes chasing the money isn't worth it. Like I had a friend that said, he was gonna do a 200-mile deadhead because he was in a dead area, and it was a load going to Miami. So I told him to add the deadhead to the origin, and then add the deadhead that you would have to do coming out of Miami. I said, now look at that rate. And it came out to just as low as working everywhere else. So at that point, it wasn't a great load. And a lot of people don't understand that. If you make, you know, $3 a mile in one direction and make nothing 1,000 mile, you know, like 500-mile deadhead, well, eventually you got to add that 500-mile deadhead to either the rate you just made or the next load. Now, a lot of times, you know, deadhead can benefit you, like a lot of, you know, like the load I pulled out of Oklahoma paid so good that I was able to deadhead and still was above what I needed it to be, and half my miles were empty. So, you know, these are the little things that you learn through trial and error and listening to others. You know, I am not an expert. I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. But for the most part, I try and I learn. And sometimes a lot of it's just patience, like calling, you know, you might have to make 20 calls in a dead area versus 10. You know, don't take the first thing that's offered to you. As far as Zach's comment, I feel like brokers stick to the shippers and barely feed us. The bad brokers do that, Zach. Okay? But if they price gouge the shippers, let's say you're broker ABC, right? And you do that. You charge the shipper $3,000 for a movement that you barely give the carrier like $1,200, okay? Well, what that does is that enables broker CDE to come in and say, hey, we noticed that you're paying $3,000 for this broker to move that freight. Well, we'll do it for $2,000. And then they turn around and give the carrier $1,800. So the carrier makes more money, and the broker gets that contract, and they make more money because the other broker will lose that contract if they're price gouging like that. So the brokers that do that usually don't stay in business very long. And they might have, you know, like a big brokerage might have loads that, you know, they lose money on some, but they make it on others. You know, think about big carriers. They might move freight that they're paying a driver 40 cents a mile for, you know, a company driver. And that load, you know, some of those loads pay $3 a mile, and some of those loads might pay $1 a mile. And so the higher paying loads make up for the lower paying loads, and it creates an average. Well, the brokers have to follow the same rules. The brokers have to follow the same rules of averages. They lose money on some and they gain money on others. You know, so for every 10 loads that they make money on, they might lose money on one load. You know, and so it comes a law of averages, you know, and when they're desperate to move something and they have no leverage, that's when they pay. But when capacity is the way it is, and there's more trucks than loads, then we have absolutely no leverage. And so, you know, when we have the leverage, what do? We want $3 a mile. We want $4 a mile. But when they have the leverage, they have the same right, the same mindset that we do, and they want to make as much money as possible. So it's a tug of war, but you have to master the game. And if you don't like the game, then you have to figure out a way to make your money without playing the game. And it's possible. I hear you, John. Now, we have a guy here that does a lot of Florida runs. But, you know, he makes his money going in. You know, Big Rich talked about never say no. Never say never. And he made a really good point. You know, like, let's say someone calls me and, you know, let's say I go, oh, I'll never go to New York City. Never, right? And broker calls me and says, I got a load going to New York City, and I'm like, well, I won't do it. Boom, that's the end of the conversation. Now I look like an a-hole that's not willing to do whatever it takes to make money, and you know, more likely the broker is going to be like, whatever, you know. But if you never say never, and that broker calls and says, well, hey, I got a load going to New York City, and you think of this ridiculously high number, like ridiculous, like, you know, a number that you would, okay, I'll actually put up with the hassle of going to New York City for, say, $7,000. And if the broker doesn't want to pay that, then you don't have to go to New York City. So you put that crazy number. So when it comes to places like Florida, get a crazy number going in. If you get a broker that calls you, put out that crazy number, and then that will cover your deadhead out. You're welcome, Thomas. That's weird that you'd learn from me. So if it's okay, can I give you a call after this? Yeah, I mean, I might be dealing with the lumper. But if I don't answer, I'll call you back. But anyways, Palerider and Thomas Wilson want me to go live. And I don't know, I really don't have anything to talk about. You know, sometimes it seems like the circle of friends that we talk to, it's all we talk about is rates and loads, and you know, and we trade ideas off of each other, and we learn things. I learned a couple of very valuable things today that kind of put me in my place. You know, you're gonna have moments where, you know, you're gonna, you know, you need to be knocked down so you don't get this like ego. You don't get this like, I know it all. I'm like, boom, no you don't. and that's good. That's healthy. You need to know your flaws. You need to know your issues, and then you can work on them. If you don't know you have any issues, then it's a lot harder to work on. My truck is fixed, Thomas. Little Bike Coach, what have my meals have been? Usually some meat product and broccoli. I've been eating, that's pretty much it. Like today, if you follow me on Zello, today I had this massive pork steak. I mean, huge, right? Like it covered this entire container. Like it went from here to here and then here to here, right? It's all I've eaten today. And I do the heavy whipping cream and the coffee, and that's it. I got some hamburger patties in the fridge with some broccoli, some rotisserie chicken, every now and then a hot dog or so. Yeah, Jeff Beards is like, yeah, it was a bite. Well, I took a bite, then I took a picture of it. It's weird. It's like, I think they're in the trailer, but they're hand unloading it. Either that or they're hammering the truck next to me. I can feel the vibration, but my suspension gauge is not changing. Generally, this place, I don't know, 90% of the time they take about an hour and a half to 2 hours. But might have to use personal conveyance to get out of here. It's loud where you are, Similar. It is. Try cold brew with heavy whipping cream. That's interesting. Well, you know, you Californians, you know, when it's like 30 degrees, I like having hot coffee. When I'm done with my coffee, I'll go in and use the hot water, and then out of the coffee machine, I'll make myself tea and drink on that all day. So I primarily drink coffee and tea, and I've got my water, you know. Diet's going good. I need to do a weigh-in. Yeah, it seems like it's easier for me to do the intermittent fasting while I'm on the road. Believe it or not, it's a little bit hard for me at home. But anybody else got any questions? You had a number 13 from Jersey Mike's Sub Shop. I've never eaten there. I guess nor will I, with me not eating bread. A friend of mine was telling me he saw a video, guy that was like keto, and he cooked a pound of bacon, a dozen eggs, and like 6 chicken thighs, or 12 chicken thighs. And that was what he ate every day, all day. I'm like, you know, you got keto and you got healthy keto. I don't think that's healthy keto. You guys got quiet all of a sudden. I think they're playing football in my trailer. I don't know. Any questions? I hear banging. Yeah, I think it's from my trailer. I always eat worse at home. More time to make bad choices. I cook in my truck also. How many miles per gallon do I generally get? John, I'm above 7 according to the computer gauge, but according to my IFTA report, I'm more like 6.8, 6.9. Yeah, they're definitely in my trailer. I felt that one. If I'm empty, I'm usually getting above 8. If I'm under 10,000, I'm usually getting above 8. If I'm about 20,000, depending on the terrain, I get about close to 8. Did you talk to Yeti about health? No, little Mike coach. I called him, left a message, said, hey, if you need any help, man, let me know. And you know, he's been really busy, so he hasn't called me or talked to me, but he got on Zello for a minute this morning, and I guess he mentioned that he was doing all right. He quit smoking, so that's really good. And he said he's been going to the gym, so I think he's doing all right. I don't think he needs my help. Why not bread? Juan Avalos. Oh man, there's a lot of videos that explain why. I mean, it's bread is just bad. You know, sugar, flour, what they put in that stuff, it's just not good. Where's Harold? He's somewhere in Pennsylvania. How's the Packard treating you? It's doing all right. Knock on wood. If I was a truck driver, I would eat at Cracker Barrel every day. No, you wouldn't, because they don't have truck parking. I know, little Viking coach. I know. I think I've only been to Cracker Barrel once, and that was because of a friend of mine came and picked me up and took me there from the truck. Is aerodynamics the main factor in miles per gallon? Yes and no. If you take a brand new Kenworth 680 and put it side by side with the W9, brand new, same engine, same everything, the 680 is going to get better mileage. But a lot of times, if the truck is set up for heavy haul, no matter the aerodynamics, it will not get good fuel mileage. And so it all depends on how it's set up, depends on the engine, depends on the terrain. If you're hauling 45,000 pounds through Utah, doesn't matter how aerodynamic your truck is, you're not going to get great fuel mileage. If you idle a lot, you're not going to get great fuel mileage. If you drive 75 miles per hour everywhere, I don't care how aerodynamic your truck is, you're not going to get great fuel mileage. I always laugh at these guys that have big hooded trucks that put air tabs all over them, and then they're doing 75, and then they wonder why they can't get good fuel mileage. Speed is a factor, but you have to find the sweet spot. I get better fuel mileage in a non-governed truck than I've ever gotten in a governed truck. Why? Because when you if your truck is governed at 65 and you're constantly doing 65, that ruins your fuel mileage. But if your truck can do 75 and you always keep it at 64, you're going to get better fuel mileage. So there's like 100 factors that go into whether you get good fuel mileage or not. Spec, speed, and technology. All right. How often do I change the oil in my truck? I try to do it every 25,000. If you have conventional oil, it'll be a lower number. If you have full synthetic, it's going to be a higher number. I've got a blend, so I'm kind of in between. You get excellent fuel mileage. Probably the best fuel mileage truck I've had is this one. With the second worst fuel mileage was in a Peterbilt 387 with a Cat engine that I used as a company driver. Oh, and the first Volvo I ever drove, that had horrible fuel mileage. The second Volvo I drove did okay, and my Peterbilt, my first truck I bought, I pretty much kept it at 61, and it did decent. I have no idea what my horsepower is, Foodmooch. All things being equal, are pre-def engines as good as newer ones concerning miles per gallon? No. Most of the brand new trucks, like the new Cascadia, they're getting 8 and 9 easily. Whereas 5 years ago or 10 years ago, they weren't getting that. So it all depends on how you drive too. Automatics tend to get better fuel mileage. You know, if you just don't drive like an a-hole, you'll be all right. Ryan, what's up? I want to say I'm either 425 or 455 there, Foodmooch. This is where I'm at. I'm sure it's written somewhere. I just don't remember. I know a lot of guys will purchase a truck from, say, a Macon carrier, and then they go to the shop to turn them up, and they turn them all the way up. That's not the greatest thing to do. Turn them up to almost all the way up. You're tired? Why are you tired, Ryan? I'm tired of this cold. They had some really good snow in this area a couple of days ago. And I was walking in between trailers and there was some ice and I had to remember, oh yeah, I've still got my Schneider ice cleats. Engine cover or door inside will tell you your horsepower. Well, that would require me opening the door and being cold, and I don't want to do that. I'm in Fulton, Missouri. Pretty much far away from you, so you can't wake me up. Getting the house ready to rent. You know, that's true wealth, I think, is real estate. You know, you can collect all the precious metals, you can have all the money, but real estate, that's true wealth, I think. You know, think about the settlers, you know, and before the Revolutionary War, that's how they got, you know, they rewarded some of the generals. It was, you know, hey, you can have Ohio, you know, property. You don't even use ice cleats while fishing. Just wondering, because I'm thinking about getting early 2000 Volvo with the N14 or 12.7 Detroit and wondered about mileage. I don't know, man. I'm not a truck techie guy. I don't know what a 2000 Volvo would get. I mean, the oldest truck that I drove, that was my first Volvo, I think was a 2000. See, I started driving in 2009. So it might have been a 2008. And it didn't have DEF. It wasn't even regen, but yeah. Did James get his trailer out of the snow? He said the wind did all the work, so he booked himself a couple loads. He's good to go. You know, I get that question a lot. What kind of truck should I buy? Sometimes your first truck has got to be something that you don't really want. Sometimes your first truck is going to have to be just something that does the job. The only time you can really get the truck you want for your first truck is if you've got a lot of money or if you want to do an expensive lease. Guy's got his brights on. You have to kind of build your way up to a new truck, in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong. You know, some guys have done it. Like, you know, you buy your first truck, put it on a 3-year note, get up to 2.5 years, trade it in. That's what I did. And then at the end of 2 years, I could probably trade this in and get something new for no money down. Now, the problem with that is you're going to pay FET, and that increases the price, and then no money down, that always increases the price. So yeah, I might get a truck no money down, but I might have to pay $3,500 a month for it. Well, the way I run my business, $3,500 a month is not going to cut it. So the more money you can put down on a truck, no matter if it's used or new, the lower your payments are, the easier it is to survive when things get tight, when rates come down. And when rates are good, you make more profit. If you get good fuel mileage, you'll make more profit. You'll net more. That's about it. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do. At the end of the year, you look how much money you've put in repairs of the truck, and you have to determine whether that truck's worth to keep. Because if you're only a year into your truck payments, then you're going to be upside down for at least 2 or 3 years. Aerodynamics plays a small part, but not there's Volvo hasn't really changed their design by quite a long time. They're not readers, they're bifocals, or what they call trifocals, Jeff Beard. Newer, Volvo hasn't changed their design up until this year for like quite a while. And there's really not much difference to them. The headlights are a little bit different. The outside of the cab is more sleek, I guess, but in the end, you have to find the perfect balance of comfort and performance. Fumuch says Volvos are top-notch trucks, the new models at least. I don't know. Depends on who you talk to. I bet you if you ask Big Yeti what he thinks of Volvo, he'll tell you where to go. But if you ask like Jeffrey Like, he'll tell you, opposite. The only truck that I've never ever driven is a Freightliner Cascadia. Well, I take that back. I drove a day cab for a day of a Cascadia. And I learned in an FLD. And it's always been Volvo, Kenworth, or Peterbilt. This is the first truck I've driven in over 8 years that doesn't have a Cummins. Out of all the trucks I've driven, the first Volvo I had a Volvo engine. The second one was a Cat, Peterbilt with a Cat in it. And after that, it's been Cummins, except for this truck. I don't know if I would get another PACCAR again. It's not that this one has been an issue, but PACCAR tends to be more expensive to fix. It should have been a $50 radiator hose was a $100 radiator hose. Did I drive a Western Star? No. And they all have their issues. They all have their quirks. It depends on what kind of quirk you want to deal with. If you buy a Volvo with a Volvo engine, you're at the mercy of a dealership. If you buy a Peterbilt or Kenworth with a PACCAR engine, you're at the mercy of a dealership. If you have an older truck, it might be harder to find parts. Freightliners and Detroit engines are easy to find parts for. And one thing I've noticed that Peterbilt and Kenworth are proud of their parts. And like, for example, shocks for my Peterbilt were triple the cost of every other truck. The lights on the 680, the external lights, they're expensive. If I have an internal engine issue with the PACCAR, I might be SOL unless I can get it to a dealership. So I think next time I will buy something that's not a PACCAR. That's the only issue I have with PACCAR, is that parts are expensive and you have to go to a dealer. And dealer labor rates are a lot higher usually. Did I see your message? I know you're talking about your vet. I'll have my money saved back for a truck by this time next year. I've had to get the vet before it was sold to someone else. Understandable. Call it the Peterbilt tax, Orion. Yeah, that's a good one. You know, the truck I'm really curious about is, there's two trucks I'm kind of curious about. One is the new Mac. I like how it looks, but I want to know how it feels. And Lumper just told the dude next to me what it's going to cost. So that might mean I'm not getting charged. Some of these lumpers have gotten smart, and some of the customers are like, they're prepaid. You know, and so I don't have to deal with the check or anything. Logic Neo, probably because I've said it before. The other truck that's not popular, that's the thing, man. This might annoy some of you. The 990, the new W990, I kind of like that. And people are like probably throwing stuff at their phone and cursing at me right now. But bear with me. When we were at Joplin Truck Show, they had one, and I got to sit in it, and this whole area right here is all like the 680. The sleeper, other than a few minor changes, was like the 680. But looking at the hood, you know, it definitely feels like a W9. Look-wise, it started to grow on me. And it reminds me of a Freightliner Coronado or an International Eagle. That's what it looks like. And I don't think it's a bad looking truck. Now, is the W900 better looking? Absolutely. But I don't think, I like that. I like the W990 over the, Peterbilt came out with a smaller hood version of a 389. I forget what it's called, 367 or something like that. Or 380, I don't know what it's called, but I think those are ugly. Wife and I were going to buy a 587. We asked to have extra shelves. They said no, the shelves were going to cost $250 each just for a thin plastic shelf to screw in the cabinet. The Orion, there's a company I was looking at that puts in cabinets for 387s, which is practically the same truck. And I actually looked into that when I had my 387, but when I saw the problems with the engine that were coming down the line, I didn't want to invest any money on the interior. Now the new 579 Ultra Loft, that's a good looking truck. I got in one of those at GATS, and that's kind of nice. But again, it goes back, even if you got one of those with the Cummins, you know, they're prouder of their parts. I am impressed with the X15, the new Cummins engine, but, you know, I don't like the new Peters. I love steel. Yeah. I don't know. I want to drive a W9. I want to drive a 389. I want to see what it feels like. I want, you almost wish you could try out a truck for a month. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm going to drive this truck for a month to determine if I want to spend the next 5 years in this thing. And, I know that there's some places I've been in where a 389 would have been hard to deal with. And I don't know, but I like the looks of them. I like the looks of the W9. There's a couple of sweet ones in Springfield right now, but I don't think it would fit my business model very well because I don't do heavy haul. I don't do specialized. I'm not a public figure that needs a nice looking truck. And doing generic dry van freight, I need to save on costs as much as I can, and a W9 is going to take more fuel. That's that's the facts of it. Yeah, but any other questions? Because this live feed's about shit. We're over an hour. We are over an hour, so, and I've probably said absolutely enough. There's some good paying freight coming out of here Friday, but so like I said, I might have to piece something for tomorrow. I think the blizzards of Kansas City are finally over. Harold, finally show up late for the party. Next time you're down, we'll fire up the old 04 W9 and you can take for a run around the southern part of the state. That would be cool, Ryan. That would be cool. Hey, Dice Man, what's up? Number what? Harold in the house. Food Mooch. What number? We talk, Food Mooch. Hey, you're getting it now. I am a public figure. Yeah, I put myself out on this YouTube stuff. Snowing in Indiana now. Trailer number. How did I come up with that? The year I was born. That's it. Kind of a dumb thing, right? It's cold here too, Dice Man. It's what is the temperature? Sorry, I was checking. It's 34 degrees, but it feels colder than that. It should be running my APU. I need to get a new seat cushion. You don't know cold till you've been to Alaska. I know Logic. I had a sister that lived up there. She told me stories. She lived in King Salmon. Harold and I were just talking about this yesterday or today. I think about we were talking about how cold. It seems like a lot of repairs happen in the cold, and the cold is harder on the trucks than the summer. And I dealt with some brutal cold, like 40 below zero up there in Kansas last year. And you know what? This carrier APU kept everything warm. I didn't have any issues. Knock on wood. All right, guys, I'm going to end this live feed. I'm getting boring now, and I'm tired of talking. And that's it. I don't have anything inspirational to tell you. I don't have anything life-changing to tell you. I don't have any gossip. I don't have any animosity towards anybody right now. I am just me. That's all I do. I'm boring me. I'm boring. So check out our Zello channel. That's trucking. It's always free. And keep the pedal to the metal. See ya. Thanks for watching.